Testing 1, 2, testing. Testing. Testing 1, 2.
Good evening, everyone. It's 7:02, and we get to have a regular meeting of the village board meeting tonight. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 1983, 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call is showing all trustees present, and we do have trustee Pieper, who is on business travel, and she will be calling in via WebEx. I now ask those that can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you. We are now on to the President's Report. Good evening, everyone. I hope that you all had a wonderful and relaxing weekend. And may the 4th be with you as well today. A perfect day to bring a little Star Wars Jedi energy into Village Hall. Lots going on in our village. You were supposed to laugh at that, by the way. Lots going on in our village. And I'll get right into what has been going on since my last President's Report. This is a long one. In the News You Can Use section, there are several updates. The Germantown Area Chamber of Commerce held their annual community awards on April 22nd. Bub's Irish Pub was recognized as the Business of the Year. Sandy Domorowski was recognized as Citizen of the Year, and Lynn Gritch was recognized for a Leadership Germantown Award. It was nice attending the event, sharing some closing comments, and awarding the village proclamations. With our finance director's last day being today, to take advantage of another opportunity, staff are working through a transition period to ensure a smooth operational transition. Interim finance management proposals are currently in review with the intent of securing professional support to maintain continuity in core financial functions, oversee ongoing responsibilities, and provide technical guidance as needed during the transition period. A similar transition is occurring within the engineering function as we prepare for our village engineer to depart on May 13th for another opportunity as well. In anticipation of this change, staff will be working, will bring forward a contract for consulting engineering services for committee and board consideration in May to ensure uninterrupted support for engineering related activities, which are many. Saying that, we are actively recruiting to backfill both positions. After the recent abnormal rain event that impacted a multi-state region to include our village on April 13 and again on April 18, the Public Works staff is conducting ongoing investigative efforts related to the storm events with attention to impacts on sanitary sewer systems. Engineering staff are also continuing to assess and prioritize drainage and localized flooding concerns throughout the village, with the goal of identifying both short-term mitigation measures and long-term improvements, with a after-action report going to Public Works Committee. The Flower Source demo project continues to move forward with D&H Demolition maintaining a projected start date of June 1. Additional environmental review work has been completed following identification by the Wisconsin DNR of items not included in the initial inspection. Abatement activities are expected to begin in advance of demolition and will be coordinated to maintain the overall project schedule. The first farmers market of the season was held on May 2nd at Village Hall, with some of the more than 30 vendors in total that have registered for the 2026 season. The 4th of July task force continues to meet and plan for events at Fireman's Park right after the 11 a.m. parade that the Germantown Chamber of Commerce is putting on. Plans include to have food, drinks, activities for all ages, live music, and of course, fireworks at dusk. Stay tuned for some opportunities that will be communicated soon on the many sponsorship opportunities available or to donate. And if you would like to assist or to volunteer, please see our social media posts or email us at july4@germantownwi.gov. Also coming up of significant interest include the Washington County Law Enforcement Memorial Service held at the Jackson Police Department on May 15 at noon. Please join us as we honor Germantown Police Officer Robert D. Bax, who on March 21, 1981 was struck and killed by a vehicle while on duty, and remember other Washington County law enforcement officers who made the ultimate sacrifice in service of our communities. Mayfest, a traditional German celebration marking the arrival of spring, will be held in Fireman's Park from May 15 through May 17. I will be there volunteering for the Kiwanis, so stop on by and partake in some great food, beverages, and to listen to some awesome music. After the April elections, we have 3 new trustees on the village board. Welcome to Scott Heffley, trustee for District 1, to Jim Stout, trustee for District 2, and to Patrick Kaiser, trustee for District 4. Congratulations to Jolene Pieper, trustee for District 3, on winning her reelection. We as a board realize fully the challenges, or what I would like to say, the opportunities we face together. It'll be on our ongoing focus to be thoroughly transparent and communicate regularly. We pledge to be good stewards of the taxpayers' resources. Finally, I am starting my second year of a 3-year term as your village president. I continue to be humbled and to welcome the opportunity to serve our community and to effect positive change that will move Germantown forward and to make our community a better place to live, work, and play. Some focus areas that I would like to address tonight include board governance. Starting this evening, plans are to ensure more streamlined and effective village board meetings. When discussing matters, we will be getting back to the 2 bites of the apple, which is a simple and practical way to describe Robert's Rules compliant discussion structure that keeps meetings orderly, fair, and efficient. In clear terms, under Robert Rules of Orders, every member has the right to speak twice on a debatable motion. The first bite allows a trustee to speak once to share their position, ask questions, or offer insight. And the second bite, and after everyone who wishes to speak has fully had their turn, that trustee may speak a second time, usually to clarify, respond, or refine their point. Second item, board goals. In the near future, I plan on sharing draft goals for village board review, editing, and of course, consideration. Included in the goals, among other objectives, would be to create a vision and mission statement for the village, which we do not have today. Once finalized, the board goals would be cascaded down to staff to ensure alignment, with the focus being business-minded, process-driven, results-orientated, and most importantly, customer-focused. Moving on to this evening's village board, our agenda includes some important matters. The annual appointments of board, committee, and commission members. One of my responsibilities as village president is to recommend these appointments for board approval, and I feel we have accomplished that and will have a great team in place that will move our village forward. With the departure of 3 senior members of our staff and with a recent market analysis indicating that we are significantly below what others are paying, we'll be taking action to adopt a 2026 pay rate chart. We will also be discussing the approved fire department addition and remodel project along with the new police station from a budget standpoint. I welcome this conversation. I also want to ensure and commit that we will stay within approved budgets and that we have proper board oversight in place via the Building Construction Oversight Committee. We will also be discussing the recent Moody rating report, which was updated after the recent board authorized sale of $17 million in bonds. The village continues to have a high investment grade rating of AA3, a slight downgrade from AA2 that we previously had. Finally, we'll be going into closed session to review the next phase with the recruitment of the village administrator vacancy. Again, lots going on. I'm looking forward to our meeting this evening as we all work together to move Germantown forward and to make our community a better place to live, work, and play. Thank you. We're now on to item 5, appointments of board, committee, and commission members. And everyone has the packet in front of you. And I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the appointments as stated.
We have a
Second.
second. Trustee
Second.
Warren? Great. We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Congratulations, everyone. We are now on to announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee and department reports. And seeing that we have just appointed the chairs of the committees, I'm going to turn it over to Trustee Kaminsky.
Public Works will meet in this room next Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Not this Wednesday, a week from this Wednesday. The 13th.
And Trustee Cutts, you're doing double duty. So
Did we get a quorum for Wednesday for public safety? Okay, next public safety meeting will be Wednesday, May 6th at 6 p.m. in this room. And the next GGF meeting will be Monday, May 18th at 5:30 in this room.
and I know Trustee Jan Miller, we have a tourism committee meeting coming up on Monday, and I know there's going to be some exciting stuff shared. Do you want to comment?
We have a tourism committee meeting on Monday, the 11th, and it's at 6 p.m. I believe.
Great.
Great.
Thank you. Any other committee chairs who would like to
Um,
comment? Trustee Jan Miller.
There is a schedule in place tentatively for Economic Development Committee, and that's on the 14th of May, Tuesday at 6:30.
Great. Thank you. We are now on to item 7, citizen input. Again, welcome everyone. Would anybody like to speak tonight? Oh, 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 go ahead. Sorry.
Just to correct that for the record, Tourism Commission is happening on May the 11th at 5:30 PM, just so everybody knows. You're welcome. And then I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention, both for here and anyone watching at home, that the Board of Review is coming up. Open Book will be available this week. Our assessor will be here in this boardroom for Open Book. If you have not made an appointment, I would suggest that you do that first thing in the morning or leave a message tonight. The property owners that were impacted would have received a letter, and that went out about a month ago. And then Board of Review will follow in June.
Great. Good evening. Welcome. You have 4 minutes.
Sure you'll let me know. I'm going to cover can you hear me? The 2 subjects on our agenda, but I want to give an introduction. Richard Moore is an investigative journalist from the MacIver Institute, and I would really recommend everybody read that on Monday, subscribe to it. He took a hard look at the relentless expansion of Wisconsin's administrative state, where agencies and regulations continue to multiply with little regard for cost, efficiency, and without voter consent. Very important. Sounds a little like our past board, doesn't it, in my opinion? From duplication programs to rules that entrench power in Madison, rather than returning it to families and local communities, this bureaucratic creep drains taxpayer resources and stifles opportunities from real reform, requires structural changes to limit agencies' power. And that's even in our own community. To restore accountability of elected officials, which is you, the board, to their constituents, because when local officials have the final say, the people will have no say at all in anything. And we must make sure that our elected officials are subject to questions to ensure they carry out their role in handling our money. Otherwise, we'll be taxed without representation, which is why I've called for public hearings. And tonight, when I looked at the agenda, okay, the extreme pushing of development is starting to cost an effect in large majority of taxpayers, and some of their decisions put before the board were relentless and done without voter approval or public hearings of any substance at all. And again, pay increases came up. They should never be compared to other communities. We have our own budget, okay? The money we get from taxpayers, and using a market analysis instead of our own budget, to me, is not the way it should be. And we should be using our own budget of what we take in, not someone else's who's going to pay. And who's going to pay our taxes? When taxes go up, they come to us for the money, okay? And we got to pay people to have a better life over my expense. That's ridiculous, and that should never be that way. And who's going to give me the raise on my budget so I can pay for things that I need? Nobody, okay? I can't go to the government and say I want more money, but the board can do that with all these budgets they're pushing on us. We need our money to pay our bills. Is it fair to charge taxpayers higher when someone else can get the raise to pay their own bills? This is ridiculous and it's wrong. And I looked up wages of the billions of people that live here. If you earn $34,000 a year, you are 99% of the world's population. What the 99% makes less than that. 99%. That's just a 34,000. And if you make 40K, you're richer than 96% of the world, okay? That's something to think about we have in this country. And I think with these pay raises, we should not be using market analysis. We should be voting on hold for, we're going through an economy that is not the greatest. I study this all the time, and we need to back off on all this stuff. Then we get to the police station. We can't afford this till we get caught up on our budget, and it's in the wrong location, okay? Where you people, the board decided to put it is not right. There's no water there or sewer. It's just not smart. And I don't know, we can still back out of this, okay? And our safety, when they say our safety depends on a $30 million building, what does that say for the police department? It doesn't depend on a $30 million building. So we can remodel the one we have or pick, we have to take more thought. I want to see the public hearings we're entitled to make this decision, not come here tonight and see $34 million. That's not right to the citizens of this community. And it's time we all speak up, and we need more time and more public input on this project. Anytime we're spending that kind of money, please start calling your representative and tell her we want to have public hearings on when you're spending millions of dollars of our money.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight and speak? Good evening and welcome.
Okay. Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. Good evening and congratulations to the new trustees and a new village board. And I think that the vacancies, you know, while it might be sad that some of your coworkers are leaving, I actually think it's a great opportunity for our village to think about new ways of doing things, to look for fresh ideas from incoming people. It's an opportunity to make new friendships, and with a new board, to bring a different way of doing things. God knows we have been asking for different ways of doing things for the last 4 or 5 years. Some of us have been coming here quite some time. I see it as an opportunity to wipe the slate clean and to go back, slow down, figure out what's missing, what needs attention, and put those things in place. One of the things that has come up recently is the potential for doing a forensic audit. We've had a couple of instances in the past where an individual who was working for the village is now has been arrested for embezzlement in another place. So while there has been some review of the finances in regards to that, and an initial statement that, gosh, no forensic audit is needed, do we really know if you don't really look? So I'm requesting that that becomes an agenda item, that you guys debate it. It's an opportunity to wipe the slate clean, to give whoever the new full-time administrator is. Thank you. We're enjoying having you here, Mitch, but we know you're moving on at some point. But whenever we have a new administrator, it would be great for that person with the new team to be able to start from scratch. That lays the groundwork for all of the financial information that should be and can be more transparent. We've been asking for that too. I view the pay grade chart as kind of a symptom, the discussion around that as a symptom for some of the things that have not been addressed properly in the village. There have been discussions about secret awards of equity pay behind the scenes to some people and others weren't getting them. I think the pay grade chart is a reflection of frustration by people on staff for seeing other people receiving pay raises when it wasn't dealt out in a fair and open manner. I think it should be looked at. I also think that it should be done by an outside person. Nothing against the work that you've done, Gosha, but it's sort of not your job to do that. And there should be a full review of all the what are you called? Job descriptions to make sure that they match. Do we have the right staffing in place? All of those kinds of things. I think it's a great opportunity to do all of that, and I think we should take it. why not? Let's see, what else? Oh, the last thing is, I'd like an explanation as to why exactly Moody's downgraded us. What was the exact reason for that downgrade? Not just some waffly little statement about it, but some real true information about it. And unfortunately, I can't stay, but I will watch the rest of it on the video. So thank you. Good evening. Congratulations.
Thank you for coming. Would anybody else like to speak tonight? Good evening and welcome.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Victoria Obst. I'm from the Germantown Firefighters Local 4854. On behalf of all of us, we sincerely thank trustees Pieper and Heffley for their diligence in posting the fire station project onto tonight's village board meeting. While we are disappointed that it is no longer an action item, we are hopeful that meaningful discussion tonight can occur in identifying the shortcomings of the initial scope of work at Fire Station 2. When discussion of this project began in 2023, your Germantown firefighters have been promised solutions are coming to our unsafe conditions and substantial space needs. Initially, the project started as a remodel and a new station near the same time. At some point, a decision was made to move the second station back 5 years, which had a significant impact on the amount of work needed for our remodel. Later yet, conversations have included sliding the timeline for a second station back 10 to 15 years. The current $6.5 million budget allocation for a remodel is inadequate to properly address our critical space needs and environmental issues. Notably, we are out of dorm rooms for members to sleep in, if we sleep, and have transitioned office spaces into rooms with desks and beds at the same time for some of our staff. We also have ineffective HVAC systems that funnel exhaust fumes into our living quarters and a station-wide mold and mice infestation. We even have staff that have offices in the apparatus bay breathing in diesel exhaust. These issues greatly affect our long-term health and operational readiness. We would like to seek a comprehensive solution rather than a temporary fix that will need to be addressed again in just a few years. The village has recognized the totality of needs between the PD and the DPW by providing an anticipated $75 million between the two. Your firefighters are just asking for the same consideration be applied to the fire station project. To give you a glimpse into our day, by way of 24-hour shifts, we work 3,000 hours per year on average, which is almost 1,000 hours more than a 40-hour per week job. There is no such thing as a standard workday in the fire station. Every shift has unique challenges, goals, and tasks to be completed. In addition to responding to emergency calls for service that come at random, some of our daily tasks include daily performance and functionality testing of our apparatus and equipment, training, community public education programs, fire inspections, plan review, and numerous other duties that keep our community safe. After much of the world has gone to bed, our work continues into the evening by investing in the department and our professional development. We cook and share meals as a crew, we participate in team bonding and leadership activities that strengthen our ability to work effectively under pressure together, and many of us even study or complete coursework late into the night to advance our education. At the end of the day, the fire station is our second home that we spend 1/3 of the year at. We eat, train, study, bond, and rest here while remaining on duty and ready to respond to emergencies 24 hours a day. From the nature of our work, we are already exposed to significant levels of smoke, toxins, and carcinogens on the fire ground and during medical calls. We do not wish to have concerns over additional exposures while in our station. A healthy, clean station is not a want, it is a basic occupational safety need for personnel serving in our village. We also have had a pest infestation. If you wish to visit our station, you may be greeted by an air scrubber or a mouse. Due to the extent of the mold issue, it cannot be fixed until a remodel or new construction occurs. The remedy that is proposed is to encapsulate the mold as the exterior walls have been deemed substantially inadequate. We understand that this seems like a lot to ask of the taxpayers. However, the members of Local 4854 propose this increased budget request as an urgent need and opportunity for potential cost savings as construction costs and materials continue to rise in price. Providing the correct solution to the critical needs of the department will come at an increased short-term financial cost, whereas providing the Band-Aid solution will have this immediate financial cost. Long-term costs may be higher, including financial costs from inflation and rework, turnover of firefighters, inefficiencies in design elements, and recruitment challenges. We urge the board members respectfully to prioritize addressing the complete needs of the department, whether that be an expansion of Station 2 or a comprehensive public safety facility, rather than just focusing on arbitrary budget figures that were first presented almost 2 years ago. We welcome the opportunity to meet with you to provide further details at your convenience, and our station is always open for you to come visit. Thank you for your leadership and commitment to public safety.
Thank you for coming tonight. Would anybody else like to speak tonight? Good evening and welcome.
Charlie Hargan from Germantown. I would just like to congratulate all of you that got reelected or got elected, or you weren't up for election, but you're still on the board. The thing that I would like to mention is think. Everything that comes before you affects somebody. So really think it over. I mean, the things that your successes will stay with you forever. So will the failures. So just think. Thank you.
And thank you. And Charlie was a past village president, and he definitely knows what he's talking about. So would anybody else like to speak tonight? Do we have anyone on WebEx that'd like to speak? Okay, moving on to item 8, consent agenda. Items A through D, minute meetings, April 20th, 2026. Equity salary adjustment for Fire Chief Delane. 2026 budget amendment to carry over 2025 funds to fiscal year 2026 for projects not completed. And finally, an ordinance repealing and recreating section 1.50 of the Germantown Municipal Code relating to municipal court assessments and fees. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We are now on to item 11, new business. Item A, temporary Class B beer, Class B wine application for, I can't pronounce this, I've always had a problem. Deutschland Heritage Foundation MyFest, May 15 through 17, 2026. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item B, resolution disallowing the claim of Davine Black. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to disallow the claim as stated for Davine Black.
Second.
We have discussion. Trustee Heffley.
Can I get a little background on this? I did read it over, but is this something that we always do where we never allow a claim? Sorry to say, Jack.
Certainly would not say we always do, but generally our recommendation is that most claims would be recommended for denial. Under Wisconsin statute and Wisconsin law, there are only certain instances where there is actual liability for governmental entities. The idea being that in most cases, it's better to pass the cost off to the individual themselves or their insurance company as opposed to burden all of the taxpayers for those damages. In this particular case, because it was basically a pothole that created some issues that the village was not aware of. They had no duty to fix it because they weren't aware of it. There is no liability in my opinion, in the opinion of our insurance company. And so as a result, we recommend denial of this particular claim.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Trustee Heffley, in my short tenure on the board, I believe we've had a handful of these. And we've only had one where we did not agree with the recommendation. We overturned it. And we had the person that gave a presentation here in the village hall, and it was the right thing to do at that time. So but thank you for the question. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We're
we'd be doing a roll call on that. Disallowed some claims.
And for the new trustees here, I occasionally screw up when I don't take a roll call vote, but I have our trustee village clerk here that will correct me. So we all make mistakes. We are now on to item C. Abacus Architects, agent for Dontoff LLC, property owner, and Basic Metals, Inc., W180 and 11819 River Lane. Certified survey map and application to combine 2 existing parcels into 1 7-acre parcel in the Germantown Industrial Park. And I'm going to turn it over to Director Resloff.
Make a motion to approve the proposed one lot certified survey map for the Basic Metals property,
I'll second.
subject to the one condition.
And we have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Director Lesloff. We are now on to item D, resolution adopting the water supply service area plan of the Germantown Water Utility. I'll turn it over to Paul for some background and then discussion.
Good evening. So before you tonight is the resolution adopting the water supply service area plan. And the background on that is under the Wisconsin DNR rule NR 854, public water systems surveying 10,000 plus more people are required to develop a water supply service area plan by December 31st, 2025. This plan is intended to help the Germantown Water Utility ensure that they can meet water demands for the next 10 years. The plan requires a map defining the existing and future service areas, source water information, high level demand forecast to ensure sustainability and efficient water supply management and infrastructure. Per the NR 854 rule, the plan was posted online for public review and comment for 30 days. No comments were received during that period. So we're asking for the board to memorialize through a resolution this WSSAP plan. And in 5 years, we are going to do a review with a revision in 10 years.
Great. Do we have any questions for Paul? Trustee Heffley.
I just came off of utility advisory and we went through that. I think Trustee Warren, we had a long discussion about this. The only concerns that I had at the time and still carry through is the fact that there seemed to be some pretty lofty goals from Sewer PAC and the 2050 plan based on population trends. And I know we have to plan ahead, but as part of that presentation, there's 2 deep wells they say that are needed on a projection and another storage tank water tower. Is that true, Paul?
So I think this is a high level plan. I think in the 5 year that we're going to do the revision, we're certainly going to have a better idea where we're at. So I don't think tonight is a time to discuss whether a new well is identified. If it's going to be there'll be a needs study coming out of the 5-year review.
Okay. That's fine. I also noted in the background information that the use of water in Germantown has decreased 19.4% since 2014, about 1.73 million gallons a day. Is that still what we're tracking at?
So depending on the column and the row you're looking at, I mean, I look at a couple things, and one is the page 15. Obviously, what's important to us is the annual demand along with the average sales. So I really can't answer what happened between 2014 up to 2017. I know the demand was high, so I really can't answer to that question, but I mean, it looks like it's trending to me average. You know, when we read water meters, it can be all over the map, and this is what I'm looking at. So I think you look at demand versus sales, the average to me looks normal. But again, I think the revision in 5 years is certainly going to tell us where we're at in a better scope. But with this just being a high level thumbprint right in time right now.
Thanks, Paul. My final comment will be is we are quite aware that Gales was a large water user for a number of years in the water utility, and they have since moved quite a bit away from us, only using us for emergencies. Is that still correct at this time?
That's correct. They were on for a couple weeks, about a month ago, but they come and go as needed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Further questions for staff? Trustee Warren.
Yeah, Paul, even though these, projections are projections, they're based on the best information we have. Even if these projections are off, they're not locking us into certain requirements by the state to do something.
No, they're not. It's just a high level self-evaluation, more for the utility themselves. I think again, the revision and the look at it in 5 years is going to be important just with the net new construction that we're seeing. And then out of that, I think just because how long it takes to get a well online, I think that would probably be a good litmus test where we're going.
Right. Thank you.
Further questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to recommend the adoption of the WSSAP by resolution for review in 5 years and a revised plan in 10 years.
Second.
Trustee Heffley, we're second. Oh, oh. Great. We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And for the new trustees, these little microphone buttons are really a pain in the rear end. You got to be they're very sensitive. So for whatever that's worth. Thank you, Paul. We're now to item E, proposal to adopt the 2026 pay rate chart, including recommended classification modifications aligned with market analysis or organizational needs. Administrator Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an item that was unanimously approved by the last GGF meeting, and it comes forward with a recommendation from staff as well as GGF to adopt. And Go-Share Support Services Manager can explain more if, as well as Director Usling can explain more if that is required.
Would you like to say?
Okay, good evening. So at last GGF meeting, I walked through the salary study data and findings. Tonight I want to focus on primary concerns that the board might take into consideration, particularly around cost control and the plan, how this would be implemented in the future. Before I move any further, I'd like to just highlight key takeaways from last meeting. We've experienced recruitment and retention struggles over the last year. We've lost several positions and had difficulties recruiting for those positions, including but not limited to senior center coordinator, DPW director, engineering tech, village engineer, finance director, village administrator. Many of those positions, at least 3 of those positions, we lost top 3 candidates due to non-competitive salaries that were kind of limited to based on current pay chart structure. So this is a future concern, and it's impacting operations and service levels in many ways. The fact that we have difficulties filling those positions create additional workload on the staff, creates additional overtime, creates lowering service for the residents, lowering morale for employees. Our current pay chart has largely remained unchanged with only minor adjustments since 2024. And during the same time, the cost of living increased, labor market has become more competitive, and cost of hiring talent also increased. And the longer this pay structure remains static, the further we fall behind the market. And the harder it will be recruit qualified candidates. So what is cost of not acting. Replacing an employee currently typically costs between 50 and 150% of their annual salary. And that amount even is increased for high-level positions. Currently, we're facing significant costs recruiting village engineer and village administrator. And that's from offering competitive salary to third-party contract and fees, and lost productivity and lowered level of service for the residents. We often end up paying significantly more on the back end, and this is exactly why this pay chart adjustment helps us address. It allows us to post positions at competitive level, attract qualified candidates, reduce failed recruitments, and avoid higher long-term costs associated with turnover. I also would like to address market comparison concerns and apples to apples comments that I've heard. The municipalities that I polled were selected based on a 1 hour labor market radius. I've been looking at one of the farthest municipalities, Caledonia, throughout the entire day. And the driving distance ranged anywhere between 40 and 60 minutes. That also translates to no more than 38 miles radius from Village of Germantown. Employees do not limit their job search based on population size. They will go to municipalities larger or smaller than Germantown, and majority of the facts implying the decision would be the distance, the driving distance, and as well as how much they're gonna be offered at those municipalities. So the next thing that I'm gonna go over is how we're gonna move forward. Oh, before I do that, I just would like to mention that even if you narrow it down to 8 closest municipalities, and that would include Caledonia, Grafton, Greendale, Greenfield, Hartford, Mequon, Port Washington, South Milwaukee. All but 3 positions have been shown as below market, anywhere between 1% and 38%, with average being 14% below market for those 8 municipalities. So how are we gonna implement this proposed plan? I am proposing phased implementation plan. Phase 1, step 1 is the very first step that is critical to move forward, which would be seeking board approval of pay chart implementation. We are not asking to village-wide pay increases. This is not what this pay chart implementation means. What this would allow us is to be able to do our job, recruiting the talent. A good example is right now for senior center coordinator position, we have had to hold the decision for the last few weeks, waiting for this board meeting. The senior center coordinator position has been vacant since early this year, January 29th. But really, we have not had a person in that position since last year due to other leave of absence issues. So what I'm trying to say is we cannot recruit, we cannot do our job because our pay chart is outdated, and we need to seek board approval to offer competitive salary. We are not able to recruit for that position and many others due to the fact that our pay chart is outdated. So phase 2 would be focusing on review and analysis. That phase would be proposed between May and September. How would we analyze this data? So we identified 14 positions below minimum. And again, that doesn't mean that we would be giving salary adjustments instantly to those 14 positions. We would need to identify funding. We would have to it would all be done with an approval authority. 11 employees under from those 14 would be adjustments under $10,000. Remaining would require board approval. We would ask department heads to find money within their 2026 budget, and we would ask them questions how they're going to be sustaining those salary changes for years to come. No funding is identified, then this would become a 2027 and beyond budget process. We would also be seeking full compensation and financial analysis, whether that means me particularly looking at job descriptions and looking at compression salary issues, comparing current employee salaries, or whether the board would decide to outsource this job to a third party. That is not my decision, but that would be part of the phase 2 approach. Those items, those positions that become critical for losing those positions, we would be taking them case by case basis through equity salary adjustment requests, and we would only adjust them if there's money in the budget. And then finally, phase 3 would be the implementation phase after the study is done. Late 2026, 2027, we would be looking at any salaries that would need to be adjusted within the current rules for salary adjustments. We would integrate that into budget for 2027 and beyond. We would also look at processes, process improvements, and propose handbook revisions, all through GGF and Village Board. Additionally, we would be modifying pay structure, including DPW hourly staff, because currently DPW hourly staff, as many of you know, were part of the union contract. They are not part of the village pay chart. I would be proposing including DPW hourly staff into our village pay chart later this year as well. So I just want to emphasize that there's no, that I'm not seeking, or the village is not seeking automatic increases. We are not requesting new funding. Every adjustment will require look at deep dive into budget, whether we can afford a justification and approval within current restraints. This is all controlled and responsible approach. The current process was established by the board, and I'm asking tonight that we trust the structure, we trust the process, and we trust the team we have in place, including future leadership, your finance director, and myself, along with board and GGF, to guide compensation decisions in a way that balances operational needs, employee morale, resident experience, and long-term financial sustainability. Thank you so much. Are there any questions?
Thank you. And before I open it up for questions to staff, I just want to give some backstory, some commentary on why now. The previous board, when our previous administrator was giving some in-market increases, and then the next step was to do the band evaluation, which we're reviewing now. I believe Trustee Kaminsky made a motion that the board supported that we would delay that until spring of this year, which is why we're doing it now. There was a sense of urgency when I first came on board, and when I heard that we were losing our DPW director to a local community for a massive increase in wages, I was very, very happy for that person. That person lived in the community where he's going to be working for. Very happy for him. And then a week later, our previous village administrator took advantage of another opportunity in a community in the area. And I'm thinking, holy cow, I'm beginning to take this personal. And I immediately started thinking of continuity of operations because I do that in my job today, where I've been doing that for 40 years. And then our finance director decided to take advantage of an opportunity a couple weeks after that for increasing responsibility and increasing pay. So we have to, as village president and our job as trustees, we have to ensure continuity of operations and stop the revolving door. Will this happen tomorrow? Possibly. Well, it may not happen. Who knows? But I do this in my job today. I manage a multi-million-dollar global operation, and we're doing in-market adjustments as we speak at some of our locations because we can't get and attract key talent or attract or maintain the talent that we have. And that is so critical. We got to put our people first so that they can do their job and deliver the services for our constituents in the community. So I'm going to turn it over now. I think Trustee Warren, you had a comment for staff?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. When was the last time we did this adjustment to the salaries?
The last time salary chart was changed was in 2024.
Okay. Second question is, how is this going to help us with the current vacancies? Because the process that you talked about is way out there and we need to hire people immediately. So this really wasn't started because of these vacancies. This was just kind of the timing that you normally would have done this adjustment or take a look at these adjustments. Yes, no?
It is best practice to update salary pay chart on an annual basis. During my salary study, looking at many municipalities, many of them update salary pay chart on an annual basis with their annual increases.
How is this going to help us with these vacancies? This is kind of a separate track, isn't it? We're looking at, I guess I turned to Mitch on this. I mean, we kind of know where we should be when we compare to other entities, but we don't have to wait for this formal process. We can offer whatever we.
One of the key vacancies that this will help with is the engineering tech position right now. That is a critical position in a lot of ways. We have not been able to offer an appropriate wage to attract someone to that. We've had some interviews and they get they understand what the wage structure is and they just decline to move on. So that is one example of a vacancy that we have right now. And the senior center coordinator is another. This will allow for a reclassification of the senior center coordinator that will automatically put that position into a higher classification that will come with a pay range that is reasonable for the responsibilities of that position. So those 2 vacancies, it will help with immediately. Future vacancies, if for instance, if the clerk's office loses a deputy clerk, who are, as our study has shown, to be significantly underpaid, will allow us to, well, first of all, this would allow us to help hold on to the ones we have, which would be my highest recommendation. But if that is not the case, then we'll be able to recruit a deputy clerk at a pay scale that is reasonable for the responsibilities of that position. So it definitely has important immediate impacts.
So I guess it gives us the data to help us with negotiations with potential candidates.
Yes, that's correct. And it also allows us to, as we post the jobs, so as per policy, we can't post a job beyond midpoint or beyond the pay scale or whatever it is. We have to come to the board to post a job beyond the stated pay scale. So this would allow us to move in a more agile manner and then immediately fill jobs once we have qualified candidates.
And as you know, we also have an opportunity, which I failed to mention in my comments. The village engineer is moving on at the end of the month to a bigger and better opportunity of more responsibility and increased pay as well. So hopefully this will assist with attracting, again, T talent. It's all about our talent, on retaining talent and attracting talent. So
thank you.
Trustee Kaminsky, were you going to say something?
Actually, I was going to say, rarely happens, but at GGF, this was in a really unanimous decision to move forward with this.
Further questions for staff before I entertain a motion? Patrick.
I was curious when you were coming up with the numbers, were you primarily just looking at the demographic per capita areas and trying to compare them with ours? Or was there any attention paid to how much staff were managed by some of the, chief of police and fire?
So we looked at different municipalities and their structure. I talked to many staff, village employee staff who helped me understand different structures at different municipalities. And we mapped those positions based on our understanding of other municipality pay structures.
So we did look at, in terms of comparing the size of our fire station and the staff there with the other fire stations and staff, because in a little bit of research I did, it looked like, Caledonia per capita was similar to us, but their fire station was considerably larger because they supported surrounding small villages as
Right.
well.
Unfortunately, I did not have that much insight into what you're talking about, describing. We more focused on competitive approach and what are the reasons that we are having difficulties recruiting employees with and retaining employees.
Administrator Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Trustee Kaiser brings up a really good point, and this is something that we were talking about earlier with a comprehensive compensation and classification study. Would I do exactly those things? And it's what I would recommend that we budget for in 2027 to be part of, to be the next step as we're phasing in this, to be the next step of how we can determine, first of all, do we have appropriate job descriptions for everyone? As Gosha was saying, that we need to make sure that we're incorporating our hourly employees in DPW on our pay chart as well. So we have to do an evaluation of the jobs that their job descriptions, the jobs that they're doing compared to the jobs that they are described, as well as everyone else, and then evaluate those as you are suggesting doing a true apples to apples comparison with all these other surrounding communities or comparable communities. What Gosha has done single-handedly is compile data that does frankly make some assumptions, but is also it does incorporate the best data that we can put together without hiring a consultant to do that. So I guess my recommendation for the board for 2027 is to budget for that and hire a firm to do that comprehensive compensation classification study.
Further questions for staff? Trustee Jan Miller.
So, interim administrator, are you suggesting we do something now and then again in 2027? Because the challenge that Gosha mentioned is that every time you take a look at a position, you have to understand what the budget is, right? So to me, this all seems like a 2027 budget exercise. And I think that was the reason that we postponed taking a look at this. Well, we always do budgets at a certain time, and this will impact our budget. And then we have this chart thrown in here of approximately $95,000. Where is it coming from?
There we go. Mr. President, I appreciate the question from Trustee Miller. It is important to note that we are as Gosha was describing, the process where we can begin to implement this if there are budget funds available. But if it is implemented, then frankly, you would obligate yourselves to fund those positions at that rate in 2027 as part of this pay chart. I do think that a comprehensive compensation classification study is something that's complementary to the work that Gosha has put in to put this pay chart together. I also think this is critical to benchmark now, because that comprehensive study would help us move forward in the future.
Yeah, again, this is the first step in one of many steps. If the board takes action to go down this path, it'll be incumbent of each department head to identify the dollars to fund this initiative. Quite frankly, from a baseline standpoint, you track attrition year over year. From an HR standpoint, if the baseline is at an acceptable level, everything is hunky-dory, if I could quote my mom. But if the attrition rate is higher than the baseline, you've got to question what's going on. Is it the work environment? Is it the pay structure? We've got to tweak something here. And that's what we're doing right now. If we hadn't had the attrition rate of our senior leaders leaving, we may not have had this conversation. Yes, we would be reviewing it year over year and tweaking it. But right now, my concern is that I want to stop the revolving door. I think by going down this path, we're taking one of many steps to do that. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying, that this is, and also with Administrator Reynolds, that in 2027, we need a budget to get a comprehensive study done on this. Because it's not going to stop. With inflation going up year over year, we will continue to have issues like this. We will. Further questions for staff? Jen?
A couple of years ago, on GGF, we had the former, what HR person had, a format that they started for exit reviews. We have not seen that in a year and a half, I bet. But it was like a quarterly report. And I think that is very important because sometimes it is not just the money. Sometimes it is, but not always. And I think that should be part of the comprehensive program.
Well said.
But we always like to do this at budget time. And I feel that, concentrating on those needs that are immediate are covered by the equity request form that they've put into place. If there's someone that needs, or we have to do that, if they need more money or we have to get in the market, this is a way to do it. So I feel like we have a stopgap until the budget.
Trustee Heffley?
I had a couple
Okay,
questions
for
on,
staff, and then-
on, couple questions on the, so we set a pay range 2 years ago. There was something like this done, right? 24? So you're saying that that range is completely out of, we're way beyond that? Like in 2 years, it just flew right by that? It didn't matter what range it was? Was that range set too low? By the way, who sets the ranges? Is that a template from the state, or who sets those salary ranges? Is that set by us, or is it set by state? Who sets the salary ranges?
Have to defer to, I don't know if Matthew can speak on that. But again, I just would like to remind that majority of the municipalities update their pay chart on an annual basis.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about how it was done back in 2024. That was done by our previous support services manager, Aaron Hearn. To my knowledge, it was not done at the depth that Gosha had done at this time. I was not involved in that process in 24, so I can't speak to, the process of which those numbers were compiled. I do know, comparing, what Gosha had done this year to what was done in the past, this is much more comprehensive analysis. Looking at 2024, that was done as part of the budget process and ultimately adopted, I believe, in November of 2024. I would like to remind the village board that we did bring this to the village board in November of 2025 as part of the budget process, but it was bumped back to the first quarter of 2026. But to answer your question, it was not done to the level that Gosha has done in 2026 here.
Yeah, and I agree that Gosha has done a lot of work. Thank you for the work that you have done on that. I do know that we can set any kind of prior, we're going to match salaries or whatever, but a lot of these municipalities that were looked at, I did some digging on, have a lot bigger tax base and a lot more money coming in than we do. So that's the only concern I have, is if we keep bumping these pay raises and then we can't pay them because we don't have money in the budget, You know what I'm saying? How do we work around that? I guess from that standpoint, because when I look at a place like Brookfield or West Dallas with 60,000 people, their tax base is far beyond ours. They do have the ability to pay their people more than we do because they have the money to do it with. And most of the people, you know, you leave for an opportunity, you hope it's for more pay, but a lot of times it's more responsibility attached to that, right? If you're going to a bigger municipality. So the only thing I'm with concern is that, okay, we can bump these pay raises all we want, but if we don't have the ability to actually give them that pay increase because we don't have the money in our budget, how does that help us? That's a concern. I think it's a real concern that I have. So
If I may just answer or make a comment, I just would like to remind that if we narrow it down to 8 similar sized municipalities, neither Brookfield or West Allis was taken into consideration. And yet, even without those two, we were still below market on average 14%.
okay, may I ask one more question? Why we did not compare ourselves to all of Washington County, since we're in Washington County? West Bend was not included as part of that, and they certainly are, you know, our neighbors. They're a bigger
We
municipality.
never received data from West Bend.
What about Kewaskum, Rennie, Hartford? You got Hartford, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So that's what I'm just, you know, I don't mind. You did a ton of work. I mean, it was amazing the amount of work you did. I was just wondering why we didn't, you know, benchmark Washington County since we're in Washington County as the second biggest municipality. So thank you.
Any further questions for staff? And I ask that you keep your questions specific to the presentation of staff and not get into any debate, which we will have to entertain a motion on. So any questions for Matthew on his financial analysis that he did? Okay, and Matthew, I just want to say you're burning the midnight oil. This is your last day. So thank you for your service to our village and have a blast where you're going, okay? Thank you. Seeing no more further questions, I'll entertain a motion. Trustee Jen Miller.
Are you referring to his, oh, I just lost it. The chart with the 95,000?
Yes, I am.
Yes. How did you, these positions, are you saying that these positions were specifically picked to take a look at because they were below?
So actually, that was part of my analysis. I just identified 14 positions that would automatically become below the market, below the pay chart minimum values if this new pay chart got approved. Just identifying those positions.
So then what do? We don't automatically give it to them, right?
That is correct. What we're asking today is to approve the pay chart so we can address immediate threats and issues in recruitment. As far as inequity in salaries, that would have to be taken case by case basis. We would have to go to the department heads who would have to find money in the budget and go through the standard approval process and our current process that the village has for any equity salary adjustments.
And these salaries are not taken out of the general fund?
No, they're within the existing department budgets that are cast in stone
right.
today. If they can't find the dollars to support this initiative, the initiative is not going to move forward for their specific department. So further questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the 2026 pay rate chart as stated.
Second.
Trustee Bob Ward had a second. We have discussion on the motion. Saying none, please say aye. Aye. Roll call. Roll call. Thanks. That's your
Problem. Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Ketz.
Aye.
Trustee Heffley.
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller.
No.
Trustee Kaiser. Trustee Stout. Trustee Kaminsky. President Soderberg.
That motion carries. We are now, thank you. And again, Matthew, thank you for your service. We are now on to item F, consideration to increase the pay range for recruitment of senior director coordinator position. And this may be a moot point.
That's correct, President We don't have to, this can be, we don't have to take action on this tonight. The previous measure made this a moot point, as you said.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on to item G, discussion, and thank you, Gosha. Appreciate your help. Item G, discussion regarding the police and fire department's budgets and procedures as relates to the newly proposed police department building in addition to fire station. And this is came, trustee Pieper asked that this be put on the agenda, and trustee Heffley signed that. And again, you need two people to put something, two trustees to put something on the agenda. So trustee Pieper, are you on? Oh, not yet. She must still be traveling. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Administrator Reynolds and then trustee Heffley. I know everybody's got the paperwork on the rationale for putting this on the agenda. I do want to say, and I appreciate the comments tonight on the fire station. And I think going back to, gosh, I've been on board for a year. Prior to that, this thing's been discussed, both the police and fire, for many, many years prior. And the decision was made, I don't even know what village board made the decision to move forward with the renovations on Fire Station 2 and the remodeling because of, safety concerns, with full knowledge that further down the road, that there is a need for additional capacity for a fire station. So I think the village board is fully aware of that, but this is an immediate fix for Fire Station 2. And the police station was recently approved on moving forward on village-owned property, the old DPW site. And we don't have to go out and purchase property. We've got our own property there. And yes, there's costs associated with running water and sewage up there. That's right by where the new roundabout is being planned. And there is a definitely need for that. And I know there was some criticism, and rightly so, quite frankly, of the building advisory committee not being engaged with oversight of the DPW building, whether right or wrong. And for the police station, we will be doing that. In fact, we've got a meeting coming up this Thursday with the police chief, the firm that is doing the architect for us, the new chair of the building advisory committee, and myself will be meeting on Thursday to ensure that we don't have scope creep, and that we stay within the budget that's been allocated and approved by the village board. Getting back to the fire station, and I am going on commenting a little bit before I turn it over to trustee Heffley. Same holds true with the fire station. The village board last year approved a budget not to exceed. And I think there was some discussion in there. Does that budget include some architect or a construction manager fees? We're still doing some research on that. But as village president, I think with the new trustees, based on public comments that you've mentioned in the past, and also the current trustees, there's really no appetite to go above what was approved. That's not to say if something emergent comes up, something catastrophic that we find that is not anticipated in the 10% contingency on the construction, we may have to exceed that. But hopefully that's going to be the exception and not the rule. So trustee Heffley, I'm going to turn over to you, seeing that you were the co-signer of this.
I think trustee Pieper had more, probably more media concerns than I did. First of all, I'd like to state that we are doing both these projects. I think I'm committed to it for sure. They are needed. It's been long overdue. It's been talked about for 20 years, as far as I know. I'll take one at a time. So with regards to the fire department, okay. I'm concerned, and again, if Chief Delane and his team think that this is what is needed, and I understand scope creep, and believe me, being on the campaign trail, I heard the words DPW 10,000 times about how the community feels that we went way over on that. Whether we did or not is immaterial. That's what the residents think, and that has to matter to me as their representative. So I am concerned about that. I did go look at the building oversight committee. It met a couple times in 2019, 2021, and 2023. They have not met in 3 years. Okay. There was an architect on there. There was a lot of smart people on there. They didn't meet. So there's a lot of concern out there in the community that it's just going to be, you know, some Taj Mahal, which I don't agree with that. But again, it's perception of the people in the community that don't come to these meetings. Okay, maybe don't watch them as much. So if the budget's fine with Chief Delane, then the budget's fine with me. But if there's a concern there that it's not going to meet the needs for the next several years or the time frame until we can get a fire station, which, by the way, another fire station, most communities our size have 2, perhaps 3. If that's really out 10 or 15 years, I don't know how that allows them to do their jobs necessarily. And again, if Chief and the firefighters here say it's fine, then, you know, it is what it is, right? But I have that concern. I wish Trustee Pieper was here, but I have that concern that did we do enough by borrowing that amount of money? And because what I don't want to do is do that, and then they need 3 more million. You know, I'd rather know that now, because it won't be 3 million 2 years from now. It'll be 4 million. So I don't know if I can answer that one at a time, or who can help me understand that. Perhaps you, President Soderberg, or maybe Mitch.
You're right about these.
I know. The
Man,
budget's
I
crazy.
tell you what, huh? Not just this one either. Working on it. Let me take a stab at some of that. And you know, I've heard the phrase scope creep a few times, and really the reality is that there you fund, you determine what you are going to spend on a project based on preliminary estimates, and then you budget for what the project is, and you borrow for that. And it's our job as staff, hiring construction manager, to ensure that we stay within budget. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. In terms of scope, I think that you know, that is determined by the needs of the community, by, as you mentioned, Trustee Heffley, the fire department, and the needs of the community in relation to the police department as well. I think that we've done a relatively good evaluation from my perspective, just coming in at 5 weeks here or something like that, done a relatively good evaluation of the needs of the community in relation to the police department, and preparing for the future. I'm a little surprised that with one fire station, there was a decision to limit yourself to a $6.5 million renovation on that fire station. That seems like I mean, it's good if you're building another fire station in 5 years, or adequate, I think, but it's relatively minimal, I would say. You are 36 square miles with 1 operational fire station and 2 engines and 7 people on a shift. That's not great, I would say. To the extent that you're able to get to places in 5 seconds, I applaud that. But there are places in this village that they can't get to in 10 seconds. And it's primarily because of the lack of fire stations. I would say, now let me just say this to all the trustees. If you would like a $6.5 million all-in fire station, we can build that for you. And we will stay within budget. No question. If you would like a $35 million police station, a $30 million police station, whatever you think you would like to budget, we'll stay within that budget. And that's, you know, that's a process that's well-defined and easy to accomplish. It doesn't mean that if we decrease the amount that we pay, that we fund for the police station, that it's in the best interest of the village. And if we pay for a $6.5 million renovation on a fire station that probably needs something closer to 13, that will be in the best interest of the village, but we will stay within the budget that you determined for us. And it's really up to you to decide. This is entirely your choice. It's up to you to decide what you would like the village to do in order to effectively address emergency services over the next 10 to 20 years. So you tell us what you would like, and we will stay within that budget.
Thank you, Administrator Reynolds. And I think the discussion centered, focusing on a second firehouse will happen sooner than later. There's a lot, and I'm not saying 10 to 15 years. It's going to happen sooner than that, within 5 years. to get the discussion going. And I would ask the Chair of Public Safety to work with Chief Delane to get that discussion going so that it's top of mind, so that we know from an anticipated budget standpoint on how far out that is. There's a lot of moving parts in Washington County relative to EMS and fire, as you know, Chief Delane. There's discussion of having a Washington County tax that would be given to all the municipalities within the county to offset some of the rising costs that we really can't control, absent net new construction. It's a real and present issue in terms of recruiting for talent in the fire service. We are aware of that. This tax could also be used for traditional bricks and mortar apparatus purchase, things of that nature. So there's further discussion on that. That's going to hopefully be finalized within the next month or so, because there's an immediate need for municipalities because they need the funding to ensure appropriate fire service to their municipalities. So I would just ask that, to your points, Trustee Heffley, that, and you're on the Public Safety Committee as well, that we would put that as a topic of discussion in the near future to have a discussion on a second firehouse. I think the 6.5 for Fire Station 2, which we got to probably change the name to the Fire Station 1, is appropriate. And I appreciate the concerns about a lot of moving parts. We're still going to be living there with construction going on. And I would just say that when I was the school board president and our current school board president, Russ Everson, in the audience, that when we did the $84 million referendum at the school district, we touched all the schools at the same time with minimal impact to the delivery of educational services to the 4,000 kids and staff, minimal issues. And we did that very well there. And I am very confident that we could still have the same plan in place at the fire station. So Chief Delane, you want to say something?
I just have a few comments when it comes to the original scoping of our project. There was a couple of things that were identified that have come to more of a fruition. And if there's any further questions, our architect is here to help answer that. If you remember correctly, we had talked about the mold issue in the department. We do have a preliminary cost on that to remediate that is an additional $2.5 million.
Wow.
And what that entails is actually reducing the internal footprint of the current fire station. So basically they're gonna take the walls, add 6 inches and put in a vapor barrier and different types of insulation to prevent the egress of moisture through the inside of the station. So that is going to have to come out of that $6.5 million as well too. When Moore and PRA did the original assessment, they gave us construction management numbers and architectural numbers that have not come in close. In fact, what we were finding is 32% higher.
Yeah.
In fact, when we were interviewing our construction managers, Moore was one of the applicants for construction manager, and he told us straight in our interview that he couldn't build the project for what he bid in this day and age. So we are kind of aiming down a real tight window right now, trying to make this happen. I guess what we really are looking for is what is this board's goals? Do you want us to make this last 5 years? Do you want to make it last 10 years? We're kind of in a position right now where we can build this building or the addition and remodel and move in, and it was outdated a year ago. So, and like our administrator said, we will do what this board tells us to do. But we'd also like a definitive answer on where we would like to go with this. If you remember with some of these meetings that we had, it was discussed that yes, we approve it with $6 million, but add 2 bays. But adding 2 bays is $2 million more. That doesn't fit into that scope either. So we feel like we've been pulled all over in every direction and don't really know where we're aiming at.
Trustee Kaminsky?
Couple questions. First of all, we came up with the 6.5 million with your input.
Correct.
And this is all news to me tonight, that it's going to be this far over. And I'd like to defer to Trustee Cutts, what might have happened in public safety that I'm not aware of, that we end up hearing this now. Because to me, right now, I'm thinking now this should definitely go back to our building committee and figure out what's going on. Because I've never heard of numbers being that far off. 32%, that's insanity.
So to trustee Cuts' defense, it
Well,
hasn't been back there because we haven't even been able to come up with a basic plan yet that fits into that budget.
Well, how did we come up with 6.5 million?
That was based off of the PRA initial plan when we did this study that started 2 years ago. About 2 years ago. And we've gone through different iterations of that. If you remember, at first it was an addition, then it was addition in a second fire station. Then it was, let's make it a public safety building. And now we're going to go back and how far can you last if we give you $6.5 million? And PRA did a preliminary plan. That's what that number came back at. And that's what we're here right now.
PRA.
Correct.
Okay. Any thoughts just to enlighten us?
Well, this is the first I'm hearing of these other charges too, but like Chief said, they are still working this out, so nothing has come back to public safety or haven't been told about these increased fees and going over budget.
We have not borrowed for this yet, correct? We have. This was the same time we borrowed for the police station. We borrowed for this. Now, that's why this is like total insanity, that we could go into a borrowing scenario and have this number come back this much higher. I mean, my mind is boggled tonight by this, to be honest with you. Because all along, I thought this was something that we go along with what you recommend to us. And that's why I supported it. I remember sitting here looking at the plans and seeing that, yes, your people need this. We need to update this. Now, I get the mold, even though I'd like to look at other ways to handle mold rather than reducing the size of the fire station by encapsulating it. I would look elsewhere to see how we might mitigate that. But I am just boggled. This has got to go back and start over, and there's just no way I could even think of approving anything like this.
And to be honest, when we get the construction manager on board, we will have a better number, but we have been delayed almost 3 months with that now because of cancellations and things of meetings too. So this would have come up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we'll put it, and I share your concerns, Trustee Kaminsky. But I think we all are aligned that there's a need for an immediate fix of Fire Station 2. I think based on conversations, there's a need to, I'm not going to say fast track, but put on discussion for a second firehouse. And that'll be through public safety and eventually village board. That will happen sooner than later. I would ask that Trustee Cutts, you're the chair of public safety, that you put this on the next public safety committee meeting. I know you can't do it with the one that's coming up, but at the next one after that, for a conversation from a full disclosure, transparency standpoint, so we know exactly what we're dealing with. And depending on discussions and actions out of that, it'll be escalated to the village board for further action. So I would not support stopping Fire Station 2 because there's a need for that immediately. I think we need to again have a discussion sooner than later on a second firehouse. So, which no one wants because we're all taxpayers here. We get it. So.
Can I take my one last second bite? We have to do this. Your people deserve better than what they have. And so as fast as we can get this through, I would get it on the building advisory committee at the same time and just have everybody looking at it because these people they're living in this place and it's not fair and it's not right. And I agree with you, village president, we have to do something and move on it quickly.
Yep. So Trustee Miller.
Yeah, I've been concerned about everybody at the firehouse. I've been there a couple of times now, and it's quite chaotic. I mean, when you put your bunk or your bed in with a desk and you're trying to get sleep and be active and there for your job, it's tough. So I'm not surprised because mold travels. I am not sure I would actually get a project manager that is really up on mold and mice, and they're getting in somehow that somebody has not, actually seen. So I think you're going to have to be, or the project manager is going to have to be pretty creative and get to the root cause of, and can they save that?
The
I mean, it's
project
good.
manager that we're bringing in, or bringing forward on Wednesday is a very reputable
Okay.
firm that builds a lot of Wisconsin infrastructure.
Okay, that's great.
Further discussion? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, trustee Pieper and trustee Heffley, for putting this on the agenda. I do appreciate that. It was a great discussion. We're now on to item H, review of the downgrade and rating report by Moody. Administrator Reynolds.
Thank you, President Soderberg. This, like the previous item, is not something that staff brought forward, so we would defer to those who brought it forward and be happy to answer questions.
Trustee Jed Miller.
Do you want to start?
Apparently I'm nominated.
Trustee Heffley.
Yes, so, I understand Moody's ratings probably better than most. So we did a $17 million borrowing and 2 days later we were downgraded, which means we were on a watch list by Moody's to be downgraded. They watch everybody very closely. You can't negotiate with those people. They decide and then you're stuck with it. So, the question is, how did this happen? How did we get downgraded? Well, there's always reasons, right? And maybe Matt, the finance director, can answer questions on this, but as part of the rating downgrade from Moody's, they issue a statement. And basically what they kind of did is blame the water utility not having a bunch of coverage, I guess it would. So, and I know the water utility advanced funds the TID 9 back a few years ago. And that was one of the things that was part of this. The days cash on hand declined because of capital spending and advances to TID funds. This is Moody's, not me. Days cash in hand will be restored. So really they say this could upgrade your ratings and this could downgrade your ratings. And they downgraded us because our borrowing is of a point where our leverage is too high. And the way to fix that is to fix those things. And I guess I would like an update of what we are doing to upgrade it. And they're not going to move fast. Moody's like the IRS. It moves fast and then it moves slow. Okay. They're not going to upgrade you just because you say you're doing wonderful things. Now, a 1-level downgrade is not horrific for borrowing. You're going to pay 6, 8, 9 basis points on the additional bonding that you do, whatever that is for. However, if you drop another level from there, that becomes a huge problem on your borrowing P&I cost. Literally, it would, I don't want to think about it. It would not be good. Okay. Now, of course, there is ways that you can address that, but I guess the question is, and I'm sure the people would like to know, okay, call me a math nerd because I understand this, because I know municipal bonds very well, but how do we get to this point? I think the people in Germantown would like to know, how do we get here and what are we doing to fix it? That's all they really want to know. So if that could be answered, I'd appreciate it.
I'll start with the water utility side. So Moody's actually issues 2 different ratings, one for your general obligation debt and one for your utilities. The water utility rating did not go down. It stayed at a AA3. Typically, there's a 1 rating gap between your geo debt and your utility, just based on your geo debt has the full faith and credit of, the taxing authority. So right now, the water utility and the geo debt have the same rating. The only rating that got downgraded was our geo debt, and it went from a AA2 to a AA3. Like Trustee Heffley stated, the main reason for the downgrade is the decrease in fund balance, as well as the increase in bond issuing. So our leverage ratio is higher compared to peers that have a AA2 rating. That being said, they also include factors that would raise the rating back up to a AA2. You know, the biggest thing that the village can do to increase its rating is increase its general fund reserves, as well as temper down additional debt in the future. One of those is easier than others. You know, there are different opportunities that the village would have to increase general fund reserves. Some that have been presented in the past, you know, some new ideas that staff has been coming up with over the last few months. As it relates to the water utility has additional challenges as it relates to its rating. You know, the water utility can't just, you know, raise rates on a whim in any given year. You know, it has to go through the PSC process, which is a concern that Moody's has. That's true for all water utilities from the state of Wisconsin. There's less opportunities to increase water utility fund balance, as well as any, you know, unexpected costs for the water utility tend to be larger. You know, it's more expensive to replace a water main break than it is to, you know, borrow a truck or something along those lines. So over the last few weeks, I've been working with Administrator Reynolds to come up with different, you know, avenues that the village board can consider to increase fund balance, you know, in going forward, starting in 2027 budget along those lines. As it relates to the issue that, or for the 2026 debt issuances, as Trustee Heffley stated, we issued a $17.17 million note. That note had a very successful sale today. For those who are the math nerds, we had a final true interest rate of 3.73%. That's roughly 50 basis points less than what we had projected when Baird came before you. So they are projecting roughly, you know, 4.25% to 4.5%. Our true interest rate was 3.73%, which will decrease the overall debt service by $941,000. So while it is true that, you know, a downgrade, you know, is not ideal and you'd prefer not to get downgraded and get upgraded, at least in this case, it didn't have a terribly negative effect on our bond sale. Last year, our true interest rate was around 3.6, 3.65 off the top of my head. So roughly, you know, 10 basis points compared to where we were last year.
Matthew, you referenced opportunities to increase fund balance in the discussions with Administrator Reynolds. Can you share anything now from a high level?
Yeah, I had three different opportunities. I can only think of two. I've been trying to think of what my third one was, and I don't have my sheet in front of me. One that'd be relatively easy. It would require PSC approval, but they're likely to approve it, and it's been brought to this village board before, is shifting the public fire hydrant fee from the general fund to the water utility. So currently, we tax roughly $537,000 in the fire department to give to the water utility to cover the hydrant fee for the water utility. Based on state statute and PSC rules, the water utility could just charge that itself, and that would free up roughly $500,000 in levy. You know, you could continue to levy the $537,000, not budget for it, and that would just fall down to general fund reserves. You know, building up the general fund reserves. In addition, over the last several years, really starting in 2011 with Act 10. On the levy limit worksheet, the village has built in enough room where there's additional levying capacity of roughly $250,000 that they could levy, and again, not budget for, and have that fall down in general fund reserves. You know, that would get us to roughly $750,000 in revenue that it has no dedicated expense, which could be used to build up the general fund reserves. And I had one more. Mr. Reynolds might have the answer for you.
Yeah, the one that you had mentioned was we allocate some portion of salaries to the utilities so part of the administrator's salary, part of finance director's salary, et cetera. And finance director had mentioned just moving what is allocated to the water utility back to the general fund. I would say that's a last resort. I would prefer we not do that. But that is definitely something we could do. I would recommend, and this is something we had talked about, and work has been done here in the village on this previously, and I don't know where it was left, frankly, at this point. But there is currently the village does not have a stormwater utility. I would recommend that be considered in the future, a stormwater utility to deal with the stormwater expenses that are now paid for through geo borrowing or the general fund.
Trustee Kaminsky?
All good Good three suggestions, each
Terry.
one of them. There. Well, each one of these suggestions sounds great. Each one of them means increasing taxes to the constituents. It's just, who are we gonna increase taxes to? And having been on this board for the amount of time I've been on this board, I've debated each of these in the past. Stormwater, dead in the water. And we can talk about that another time. But the passing the $537 on, which everybody's being taxed for now, and taking that and putting it on the water utility, I guess I'm glad I'm not on Village Water, but I don't know that that's fair. I mean, if we have a fire out in the rural area, we're still going to a fire hydrant to get water to put out the fire in a rural area. I mean, none of these sound great. And I will say the way we increased our rainy day fund in the past was being very judicious about our spends, of course, in budget time, but also we had some very good years in there where the economy picked up after like 2010, 2011, where we actually ended up with surplus budgets. And this might have been before your time for the most part. And anytime we had any surplus, we did not spend it. We put it right into that fund. And I like that. I don't know what development's going to look like this year in 26. Right now, looks pretty good, but who knows what's going to happen with the war and everything. But that for sure we should do. And I think the rest of it, we have to have very, very careful debate from committee level on up to decide if it's worth that just to get our one tiny point A grading up again. I think it's going to be a lot of thoughtful discussion.
Obviously, net new construction is going to be a key factor as well from an overall budget and so forth. But Matthew, question for you. If I know there's some, there'll be an announcement soon on the community engagement meetings for Village Center that includes the Ascension, Grossnick, and of the Flower Source properties. Now, if we move, based on those conversations on what the community wants, if we do an RFP to a developer, we sell that land, get equal costs that we took the monies out of fund balance for, and we replenish fund balance, but also those properties are then on the tax rolls. Will that have any benefit?
Selling the properties would increase fund balance. It'll mostly be offset by the debt service payments. The third option that President Soderberg, you so carefully reminded me of was we currently receive rent payments from Ascension for that building. They're currently dedicated to pay that debt service levy, so that debt service levy is not being levied. It's being paid for by Ascension rent. You could, this would raise taxes, you could allocate that $435,000 annually to the general fund and include those debt service payments on the debt service levy. Again, probably not a popular take or popular way to solve the problem, but doing those three together would give roughly 1.2 million in unallocated revenue, where even if you did it for 1 year, you could increase the general fund reserves by roughly 1.2 million. But selling the Village Center projects will have a minimal effect. Selling the Grossnick property would have a direct effect. So if the village board recalls, the village purchased that property in 2023, 2024. The original intent was to issue debt to pay for that. However, upon careful consideration, the village board decided to pay for that out of general fund reserves, and we did not include that in the 2025 debt issuance. If we were to sell that property, any proceeds go directly back into general fund reserves and replenish those funds.
Great, thank you. Trustee Heffley, Trustee Warren first.
So I had lunch last week with somebody who's a lot smarter in water utilities. He used to administer the Waukesha water utility, and he's a good friend of mine. And was kind of talking about the reserve issue that we have with the water. And he said that he suggested that we submit a rate case to the PSC so that we could get things adjusted. And I thought you could only do that once a year, but he said you could do that every 3 months if you wanted. Now, maybe this is a question for Paul, but do you have any knowledge about the rate case submittals?
Yep. I don't know if you can do it every 3 months. I'm sure the PSC would frown upon that. You're allowed to do a full rate case really as often as you'd like, following 1 year after the previous one. So if you did one in 2025, you're allowed to submit one for 2026. The last time the village did a full rate case began in 2019 and took effect, I believe, 2020.
Or
20, that was a step two took. I think step one was in 2022 or 2023. Step two took, a year or two later than that. And the village did a full rate case where they submit, essentially all the financials of the water utility, some asset data to the PSC, and they run their numbers of what the water utility needs to remain solvent and to fund capital projects with cash and through water revenue bonds. You're allowed to do a simplified case every year, which is essentially adjusted for inflation. So you can go back to the PSC and say, we'd like to do a simplified case where you submit far less data, and they allow you to increase your rates at a smaller scale, contingent upon CPI or some inflationary data. And you're allowed to do that. I believe it's 5 years in a row. After the 5th year, you have to go back and do a full rate case. Based on the state of the water utility, we just had the step 2 increase in 2025, so we were not able to do anything for 2026. It is, my recommendation, and I'm sure Administrator Reynolds' recommendation, that the village submit for a full rate case again for 2027. The last time the village did that, they had to hire an outside firm to assist with that process. I was not involved in that process. That was before my time, but I imagine it likely that the village board would do something similar.
Trustee Heffley?
Can we instruct Paul Hogan to look into this? From that standpoint, would he be the point man on that? Doing a rate case, not doing a rate case? Because I know I had talked to him a couple months ago about that he was looking to do that, but in relation to some other infrastructure projects.
That work's underway.
Okay.
Yeah, we're beginning the first steps on that. Yes.
I'm looking, I would like options, not just like we're going to go out for a 40% increase or whatever. I would want to see different options where you do a smaller one and then it's incremental from there, or a full one and then you don't do anything for 5 years. I mean, you've got to have different options, not just one way.
Should bring that in front of the utility
Utility
advisory.
advisory would be a great place to start.
Certainly. And the water utility has been quite prudent with its cash over the last 5 to 10 years. For a long time, there was little to no increases in the water utility rates. In addition, it has been paying for its smaller capital projects with cash. So, $150,000 for a well renovation and things like that, which has drawn down our cash reserves. But in lieu of issuing water revenue bonds for that. While there are large capital expenses, in the mid to long future for 2026, and I would anticipate for 2027, there are little to no capital expenditures besides the replacement of meters, which we do every year, which will really help the water utility from an operating income standpoint.
Trustee Miller?
I was going to ask, are we getting not only the Paul Hogan in it, could we ask Baird, because they're all about getting money, making money.
I'm not familiar if they do PSC rate case. Typically those are, the last time the village did it, they used Baker Tilly, not the auditing side of Baker Tilly, but
the other
side that works with the PSC. That is something Baird could possibly do. It'd be outside of our current contract, and probably have a different contract with them. It's likely we would issue an RFP for those services.
Sure.
Going forward.
Sure. Thanks.
All right. Further questions for staff and Trustee Warren?
What's your New Berlin phone number?
I don't know yet.
Well, needless to say, we will continue to have this top of mind in discussions with Utility Advisory, GGF, for opportunities to increase fund balance. And I feel very confident that over the next several months, we will do that. The AA3 is still a very, very good investment grade rating from Moody's. Yes, it went down from AA2. I'm not at all concerned with that. I'm more concerned with the opportunities that we have to increase fund balance and so that we go down a different path. So further questions, final questions for Matthew or for Administrator Reynolds? Okay. Again, Matthew, thank you for your service to the village. Congratulations and have a blast where you're going. Okay. Take care.
Smith.
Okay, we are now on to, and thank you, trustee Jan Miller and trustee Heffley for putting this on the agenda as well. We are now on to item I, village administrator vacancy. The village board may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 1C for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, and compensation or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and then may convene in an open session to take action as it deems appropriate. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So move.
Have a second? Who's second? Thank you, Patrick. Discussion.
Who's, oh, go ahead.
Trustee Heffley.
Is this a item that is a closed session item is my question to
Definitely
the
a closed session item because we will be reviewing potential candidates that based on the phase of this, they are confidential candidates, and then we will identify appropriate next steps so that we can move this forward. So
It's my first board meeting, so.
thank you. Trustee Warren.
Who do we want to be in closed session? Mitch for sure, right?
Yeah, we'll have Mitch, and then of course we'll have Jay, our consultant. So.
Okay.
So further discussion, seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Cutts,
Aye.
trustee Heffley,
Aye.
trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
trustee Kaiser,
Aye.
trustee Stout, trustee Kaminsky, President Soderberg.
Aye, and that motion carries 8-0. It is 8:53. Thank you all for coming. Drive home safe.
A couple things to sign.